I never believed in monsters until I became one. What I'm about to tell you happened 3 weeks ago, and I still can't look in the mirror without checking for more zippers. It started innocently enough. My 7-year-old daughter Emma came home from school scratching her head constantly. Classic signs of lice, every parent's nightmare. I'd been through this before with her older brother, so I knew the drill. That evening, I sat her down in the kitchen with a fine-tooth comb and a magnifying glass. The overhead light cast harsh shadows as I parted her blonde hair section by section, hunting for those tiny invaders. "Hold still, sweetheart," I whispered, running the comb through her scalp. She fidgeted in the chair, humming some tune from school. That's when I felt it. My fingers froze. There, hidden beneath the soft strands of her hair, was something that shouldn't exist. Something cold. Something metallic. A zipper. Not a hair accessory, not a toy. A zipper embedded in my daughter's scalp, its metal teeth glinting under the fluorescent light. The pull tab was small, delicate, almost organic looking, as if it had grown there. My breath caught in my throat. I blinked hard, thinking I was hallucinating from the stress of divorce papers and late mortgage payments. But when I opened my eyes, it was still there. "Mommy?" Emma's voice seemed to come from far away. "Are you okay?" I cleared my throat, trying to sound normal. "Yes, baby, just thought I saw something. Let's get you to bed." I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that zipper. I Googled everything: skin conditions, hallucinations, stress symptoms. Nothing. Nothing came close to explaining what I'd seen. By 3 a.m., I convinced myself it was just exhaustion, a trick of the light, a hair clip I'd mistaken for something else. But when I checked on Emma the next morning, my blood turned to ice. The zipper was longer. What had been maybe an inch the night before now stretched nearly 3 inches across the back of her head. The metal gleamed dully in the morning light, and I swear I could see tiny indentations where each tooth met her skin. Emma seemed completely oblivious. She ate her cereal, chatted about her friend's birthday party, and ran off to catch the school bus like nothing had changed. I called sick to work. I spent the entire day researching, calling doctors, even reaching out to medical forums with hypothetical questions. No one had ever seen anything like it. Body modification, they suggested. Elaborate hoaxes. Medical anomalies that belonged in textbooks. But this was my daughter. That evening, I decided to examine it more closely. Emma was in the bath, and I told her I needed to check her hair again for lice. The zipper was warm to the touch. I could feel a faint pulse beneath the metal, as if something was moving underneath. The pull tab was easy to grip. Too easy, as if it wanted to be opened. "Emma," I said, my voice barely steady, "does this hurt at all?" She turned to look at me with those innocent blue eyes. "Does what hurt, Mommy?" She couldn't feel it. She couldn't see it. I was the only one who could. The realization hit me 3 days later. I was brushing my teeth before bed when I felt an itch on the back of my neck. Just a small irritation, like a tag from a shirt collar. Without thinking, I reached back to scratch it. My fingers found metal. Cold. Smooth metal with tiny ridges. I spun around to the mirror, craning my neck to see. There, just below my hairline, was another zipper. Smaller than Emma's, but unmistakably real. I stood there for what felt like hours, staring at my reflection. The zipper seemed to pulse with each heartbeat, and I noticed thin, almost invisible lines extending from both ends. as if it was still growing. That's when I understood. This wasn't happening to us. This was happening through us. Over the next week, I documented everything. Photos, measurements, temperature readings. The zippers grew consistently, about half an inch per day. Emma now had 3 separate zippers running along her scalp like seams on a baseball. I discovered mine was spreading too. What started as a single zipper on my neck had branched into 2, then 3. One curved around my ear, another traced my jawline. The third was working its way down my spine. I stopped going to work. I stopped answering phone calls. I became obsessed with understanding what was happening to us. The internet became my lifeline. Deep in the corners of medical journals and fringe science forums, I found whispers of similar cases, always dismissed, always explained away. But then, I found Dr. Morrison's blog. Dr. Elizabeth Morrison was a former CDC researcher who had been quietly documenting what she called metamorphic body integration syndrome for over a decade. Her blog was buried deep in the dark web, accessible only through encrypted channels. She had photos, case studies, video testimonials from people who claimed their bodies were being prepared for something. I messaged her immediately. She responded within hours. "How long since you first noticed them?" 2 weeks, I typed back. "You have maybe 72 hours before phase 2 begins. Bring your daughter to my facility immediately. The address is attached. Trust no one else. Tell no one where you're going." Dr. Morrison's facility was a converted farmhouse 3 hours outside the city. When Emma and I arrived, I saw others like us. A man with zippers running down both R's, a teenage girl whose entire back looked like the seam of a jacket. They all had the same expression, a mixture of fear and fascination. Dr. Morrison was younger than I had expected, maybe 40, with prematurely gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. "You're just in time," she said, examining Emma with practiced efficiency. "Phase 2 usually begins around day 14. Phase 2 of what?" She looked at me with something like pity. "The zippers aren't the end goal. They're the beginning. Your bodies are being modified to serve as containers." Containers for what? Before she could answer, Emma tugged on my sleeve. "Mommy, I think something wants to come out." Emma's largest zipper had begun to separate on its own, not opening, separating. The metal teeth were literally pulling apart, revealing not bone and brain matter, but a soft, bioluminescent glow. "The entities that do this," Dr. Morrison explained rapidly, "they're not from here. They need human bodies to survive in our atmosphere, but they can't just take over. They have to rebuild us first. Make us compatible." "How do we stop it?" "You can't, not once phase 2 begins, but I can offer you something else." She held up a device that looked like a modified medical scanner. "I can transfer your consciousness before the integration completes. Your body will become theirs, but your mind, your memories, your personality will be preserved in a digital matrix." Emma's zipper opened wider. Something moved underneath the glow. Something with too many angles and a sound like static electricity.
"Choose now," Dr. Morrison said, "or in 10 minutes, neither of you will exist anymore." I looked at my daughter, my beautiful, innocent daughter whose body was becoming a doorway for something incomprehensible. The thing beneath her zipper was pressing outward, eager to emerge into our world. "Will it hurt?" I asked. "The transfer? No. But what happens to your bodies after? I don't know. No one's ever come back to tell me." The other patients in the facility were watching us now. Some had made their choice. I could see the upload cables attached to their necks, their bodies slack as machines hummed quietly. Others had chosen differently. Their zippers gaped open like wounds, revealing spaces that defied geometry. The things that emerged from those spaces were beautiful and terrible and utterly alien. Emma looked up at me, and for a moment she was just my little girl again. "I'm scared, Mommy." I knelt down and took her hand. "I know, baby, but we're going to be okay. We're going to be together." I nodded to Dr. Morrison. The process was surprisingly gentle. 2 cables inserted at the base of our necks, a warming sensation, like falling asleep in sunlight. I watched through the facility's monitors as our bodies completed their transformation. Emma's small frame opened like a flower, revealing a creature of impossible beauty. My own body welcomed something that existed in spectrums I couldn't name. But we were still us, still together, still conscious, just elsewhere. Dr. Morrison's digital afterlife was crowded with others like us, families who had chosen preservation over integration. We could communicate, share experiences, even feel something like happiness. But we could also see what our bodies had become. The entities weren't malevolent. They weren't conquerors or parasites. They were refugees. Their own world had died in ways that made no sense to human understanding. They needed new forms to continue existing. And human bodies, with our capacity for emotion, creativity, and adaptation, were perfect vessels. The integration was spreading, slowly, carefully, but spreading, nonetheless. Always starting with children, always in families, always beginning with that first, impossible zipper. And the worst part? Emma's school photos that week showed dozens of other children, all of them scratching their heads, all of them about to discover what was growing beneath their hair. I'm telling you this story from Dr. Morrison's digital sanctuary. Emma and I are safe here, in whatever way digital consciousness can be safe. But our bodies are walking around out there, living new lives, raising Emma's consciousness-transferred classmates as their own children. The integration is accelerating. If you have children, check their heads tonight. Really check. Run your fingers through their hair and feel for anything that shouldn't be there. And if you find what I found, well, Dr. Morrison is still taking new patients. Just remember to knock 3 times, pause, then twice more. She'll be waiting.